And welcome back to For Such a Time as This, the place where there is no such thing as a silent witness. This is going to be a part two of what we did before. The last video, speaking of the courage of Jaden Ivey, who as a member of the NBA still spoke out in righteousness against the NBA's practice and support of the LGBTQ Pride Month. But I thought this text would be very, very appropriate to the videos that we're going to see today. In Matthew 12:34, it says, "You brood of vipers, how can you speak good when you are evil? For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak, for by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned." For those of you who don't know it, Jaden Ivey, a member of the Bulls, spoke out against the practices of the NBA in Pride Month in support of it. For those who haven't seen it, here's the small little clip of what he said.
That the world can proclaim LGBTQ, right? They proclaim Pride Month and the NBA. They proclaim it. They show it to the world. They say, come join us for Pride Month, to celebrate unrighteousness. They proclaim it. They proclaim it on the billboards. They proclaim it in the streets. Unrighteousness. So how is it that one can't speak righteousness? How is it one that how are they to say that this man is crazy?
In that video, he's even acknowledging that they've called him crazy because he was speaking truth. Now, the next video I'm going to show you is from a gentleman by the name of Emmanuel Acho. Emmanuel Acho, at the first part of the video that I'm not going to play, actually goes and attacks Jaden for his life before Christ. Mental, pornography, adulterer, getting drunk. Jaden admits that before Christ. And Emmanuel Acho jumps on it. But then Emmanuel Acho sits down and pontificates on the biblical aspect of all of this. The funny part about this is he really thinks he's dropping knowledge. Mr. Acho really thinks he's saying something. Look at this.
Now let me talk about the biblical aspect of it. Because Jaden Ivey also has to understand that not everything that's legal is going to be biblical. Render to Caesar what is Caesar's. Also have to understand, you have to be wise, discerning, and tactful as to how you speak and when you speak and who you speak to. Jaden Ivey, if you want to quote Paul in Corinthians, Paul wrote what he wrote to the church in Corinth. He didn't necessarily write what he wrote to the church in Ephesus or the church in Galatia. In the same manner, Jaden Ivey, you got to use discernment of when you speak and who you're speaking to. If your job and your goal is to emulate Jesus, also understand when Jesus saw the woman who had committed adultery, he said, "Go and sin no more." He didn't then try to extrapolate every single sin and every single man she has slept with adulterously. So I will just start by saying, one, understand there's a difference between legal and biblical. Two, Jaden Ivey, make sure you tend to your mental and emotional health if indeed there is anything going on, because you have been very vulnerable about your struggles previously. And then three, render to Caesar what is Caesar's and render to God what's God's. That's biblical if you want to talk biblically.
What an idiot. Everything that's legal is not biblical. What the heck do you mean by that? Everything that's legal is not biblical. You're right when you talk about abortion. You're right when you talk about gay marriage. It's legal, but it ain't biblical. How are you somehow using that in a way to attack a man who's speaking righteousness and truth? What do you mean, sir? What are you saying? What did he say that was biblical but wasn't legal? You say everything that's legal, not biblical. What the heck are you talking about? Secondly, tend to your own mental health. The man confessed his sins before the cross. Now, again, Jaden Ivey, I don't know the man. I don't know how strong his walk is. But for you to go and speak of the struggles he had before Christ, you think that somehow diminishes his argument. I say to the contrary, it strengthens it. He's telling you how he repented and what he repented of. He knows what unrighteousness is because he lived it. He's no longer unrighteous. He's living a life in which he's striving to be obedient to God's command. And then the last one, render to Caesar the things that are Caesar. Sir, I'm not sure you really even know the context of that statement. Render the things to Caesar that is Caesar. And before we do that, he wrote it to the Corinthians, not to the church at Ephesus and other. Sir, the things written to the Corinthians are applicable to the church at Rome, Ephesus, and every other church on earth. Just because he wrote it to the church of Corinth doesn't mean it's not righteousness as it pertains to the church at Ephesus or Laodicea or Cappadocia or anywhere else. What's your point? The funny thing is, he really thinks he made a strong argument. Okay, render the things to Caesar that are Caesar. The context was when they were asking Jesus, should we pay taxes? If you look at the context of it, they were trying to trap him. He takes out a coin. He says, whose image is it? They say Caesar. He says, render to Caesar the things that are Caesar, render to God the things that are God. It's a clever way of saying, Mr. Acho. It was a clever way to sidestep the trap given to him. That what you think is Caesar, give it to him. The coin. What's Caesar? The coin, taxes, okay. But render the things to God, the things that are God. Well, what's God, Mr. Acho? The earth and everything in it. I'm not sure I understood his point. Render to Caesar. Is he saying give his soul to Caesar? Or give the NBA or your sense of righteousness to Caesar and to God, which is Sunday? I don't know what he's saying. I can guarantee you this. He doesn't know what he's saying. He doesn't know. I rarely say this, but his argument was idiotic. It was foolish. It had no substance. It can stand up to zero scrutiny. Render the things to Caesar, render the things to God is God. Well, what's Caesar and what's God? In your opinion, what does Caesar own? And what does God own? That's the point of the saying. Mr. Acho, God owns it all, including our souls. And Mr. Ivey understood that. And he was willing to forego his future in the NBA. Now, I hope someone picks him up. That's in limbo as we speak, March 31st. That's in limbo. We don't know. But he was willing to sacrifice his career for eternal rewards. And in that sense, I say this, because you attacked his mental health. Go deal with it. If that's something's going on, go. Let me say this. That man can see far clearer than you can. And that man's mental, emotional, that man's clarity on life is far clearer than yours. I suggest, Mr. Acho, you go to Mr. Ivey and ask him to explain the gospel to you so that you can understand the eternal truths of God. And then maybe you will see the way I see it. Jaden Ivey is worlds ahead of you when it comes to understand.